what do you think about coronavirus?
I have enough about it. I have enough of it.
One thing that I feel like I've learned about my kids during this time of quarantine and social distancing is how, especially little kids and toddlers, are such a thermometer of whatever's going on with you. And I feel like on the days that I'm not prioritizing my mental health or getting out and exercising, I feel like it's just very obvious how the little meltdowns just pile on top of each other.
One of the things that I realized is that I'm not super good at the spontaneous, silly games that kids like to do, like blow up a balloon and play keep it off of the floor or things like that. I'm very good at, here's our list of things we need to get done. We need to get this done by this time so that we can do that, so that then we can go and do this activity, and then we'll be back and we can have dinner, and then we can do that activity. And when Liam asks me to play that silly game, I need to take a deep breath. I have the time. We have nowhere to go, nothing to do. And God has really shown me to take joy in those little moments.
One of the things that jumps out is that I am a lot less patient than I thought I was. And I didn't think I was that patient to begin with. So I'm learning to do a lot of apologizing, and lucky for me, my kids and husband have been incredibly gracious and forgiving. And I'm learning to slow down, and when I do take the time to do that, and just spend time with my kids and hold loosely to my plans, they have some really beautiful things to teach me about God's character.
It's not so much what I've learned as something that I've had solidified, which is how much even though I'm a very introverted person, how much I appreciate and need the people in our community. This time has been really hard without my mom and mother-in-law and Annie and all of our family and friends being there on a daily basis like normal, and just a reminder of how important it is for me to have those connections and that help, and having people that you can call and say, hey, this day is not going well, can you come over or something.
I think I've learned just how resilient Jonah is, and also though how he needs to grieve change and loss too. I think that the change in his schedule and the change in being an only child, he's done an awesome job with, but we've had to hold some space for him to really process that and work through it. So it's just kind of learning that kids need to grieve too. And I've learned, well, we're just getting to know Toby. Learned she doesn't like to sleep and has a really round head.
I think every day we can be the good that we wish to see in the world. This isn't a new win. It's kind of an ongoing appreciation of being able to be the good. We may not make huge impacts or find cures or save the world, but we can bring a smile to a stranger's face, lend a helping hand, buy someone's groceries, be the good we can while we're here.
So right before the whole shelter-in-place quarantine started, we welcomed a new baby into our home. And so for that first month anyway, we were, just playing it low-key, just trying to get adjusted to having 3 little ones, a 4-year-old, 2-year-old, and a newborn. But then once we started to get into a little bit more of a rhythm, but yet that option to go out and meet people, or, meet friends for a hike, or drop the boys off someplace and have a date night, or just hang with friends, that still wasn't an option. And it's really started to sink in the last few weeks, and how much that, you know, changes me as a mom, and not for the better. You know, those relationships that you have, and literally walking beside somebody, you know, on a trail, I realized are very important. And without them, without even the ability to give or receive a hug with that taken away, and to be able to have a little bit of a break as a mom too, even though I do stay at home with the boys, once all of that's taken away, I become a lot more irritable, not as patient, you know, not as forgiving towards others and myself.
I have 5 kids now, counting my stepson. He's older and lives here in Helena, and walking with him a little bit through not having work through this time with COVID-19 is quite different. And my oldest daughter, she lives out of town, so not being able to see her eyes really well when she's struggling through something and work stuff and relational things, whatever. I just want to hold my kids.
I don't see myself parenting any differently than what I've always have. I invite my child, Nita, mostly into experiencing life and having an opinion about what our world is like. I've noticed more of just her awareness of my emotional health. I've had a lot more experiences where she said to me, "Mommy, I think we should pray about this. I think your attitude needs to change. You need to trust God." And I think that it's a testament to just what she's learning at Narrate and how much we miss being there at the church.
Okay, so something I have learned about myself as a mom is definitely that I need to just slow down and be present. I think it gets way too easy to be like caught up in running errands and grocery shopping and cleaning the house and making sure like all of those little things are taken care of, that we kind of forget to just like be present with our kids and give them our undivided attention throughout the day.
So I think I've always known, but maybe I'm now just applying, listening to my kids, instead of telling them where to go, what to do, when to do it, what time to go to bed, when to wake up, checking in, all of that good stuff. I think during this COVID especially, just listening to them.
If I want to parent from a place of intention, a place that is in line with my values, that in order to do that, I have to have a lot of margin. If I give in to just letting myself check out and really going down the rabbit hole of what could happen, then I can't parent in the way that I want to. Because instead, I'm snapping at my kids, I'm easily irritated, I'm very impatient with them, or I just want them to leave me alone all day. And that doesn't really work. So if I want to show up and be more present with them and respond with love and with grace, then I have to be taking care of myself first. And so for me, what that looks like is starting the day reading something, something to do with spirituality that helps me to tap into like a deeper well to all the stuff underneath the uncertainty. And when I can tap into that, then I can respond in a way that I want to with my kids.
It's been an interesting time to be a parent. I have a 4 and a 7-year-old, both girls, so we outnumber my husband 3-1 on the drama front. We've had a lot of really great moments since we've all been cooped up in the house together. I highly recommend balloon tennis. It's really fun. But we've also had a lot of crashes and burns, and I'm trying to embrace what my mom has always said to me, which is pick your battles. I'm also just daily asking God to help me discern the line between grace and discipline with my children. I think we all need a lot of grace right now, and my kids are no exception. I know that a lot of their behavior is because they are emotionally processing all of the changes that have happened in our life in the last 6 weeks. And I'm just going to go ahead and say never underestimate the power of an apology.
We became foster parents in September, the end of September, of 2 little kids, and one is school age and one is not. And it's been crazy, a whirlwind. We don't have any of our own kids. We just are fostering, and to step into that, we thought that was a crazy idea, but we are in the middle of this quarantine and stay-at-home order, and we are loving it. We have learned the quality of adventure. We have learned to just be a team. I've learned, number one, to involve kids in every decision just that we are making through this time, and then making them aware of what we're doing. It seems to really help them want to be a part of the situation.
When my daughters were growing up, I was very focused on having the perfect looking house and the perfect looking children, both in behavior and in appearance. And I missed so much because I was too focused on what they looked like, how they acted, what my house looked like. Now, my husband Ron and I take care of our little great-grandson Hunter every day. And I have learned to change a lot. So I think what I've learned is that it's so much more important just to cherish the time with your kids. Let them know they're loved and special to you and that you delight in them. Your time goes by so fast.
I am always worried about what's next, what needs to be done, having a plan. And I have had to learn during these past few weeks that that doesn't really work right now. And I've just learned that I need to be present and I need to be in the moment. And I have to admit that's something that I've constantly struggled with. But right now it's been forced to happen, and it's been a really nice lesson. I know that when I look back at this time, inside my 4 walls at least, I'll smile at the memories that we've made together as a family, and just made the most of a bad situation. Don't get me wrong, these weeks have been hard and heavy, and there's been tears and lost patience and frustration, heightened anxiety, but God is here with us, and He's with us in the midst of all the uncertainty. Hopefully we can all remember to be gentle with ourselves and hold on to what's important.
Good morning and happy Mother's Day to all of you moms out there. I just want to say thanks to some of those awesome moms that took the time to take a couple minutes and share with us what they've been learning about their kids and their parenting and themselves in this time. I myself am not a parent, and I can't even begin to imagine the joys and challenges of raising kids in a normal world, much less a pandemic world. So way to go, moms out there. As the videos were coming in, I was getting sent all of those videos one by one, and I really loved watching them all. And I started to pull out several themes, which you may have done as you were watching it right now. I want to take just some time this morning to focus on a couple of those themes that really spoke to me and just dive in a little bit deeper. Regardless of if you're a parent, or maybe you're a grandparent, or you're like me and you don't have kids, or maybe you're living alone, regardless of your situation, I think we've all experienced drastic changes to our day-to-day life. We've been forced to adapt so quickly to ever-changing situations. I was thinking the other day, 6 months ago, we just had no idea that life today could be so different. And I really thank the moms on the video for just giving some really vulnerable insights into the ups and downs in this season. The first theme I wanted to jump into this morning is this theme of slowing down. To me, it seemed like it was this overarching theme that almost everyone talked about, and it allows for some time and some space for a few of our other themes that we're going to talk about this morning to take place. So many of us, we're not as busy anymore, right? I mean, maybe if you're a medical professional or an essential worker, or you're in the grocery stores, you might be working more than ever, but so many of us are not as busy. Our fast-paced schedules have come to a halt. Like, we've hit the brakes. I've been choosing to look at this time through the lens of a Sabbath. So the Sabbath comes to us from the Jewish tradition where they would take an entire day just to take a break from their routines, a break from the norm, and to just rest. Now, I get this isn't a perfect analogy. Some of you might be in a very serious crisis right now, or like I said, you're working more than ever, and you cannot choose to think of this time as a Sabbath. But for so many of us, like I said, our fast-paced, on-the-go lifestyles have all of a sudden come to a halt, and there's nowhere to go, and there's nowhere to be, and there's nothing to do. We've been talking about, in these past few weeks, a life in exile, and asking ourselves where the opportunities are in this time. And as I was watching the videos come in, I started to ask myself, what is my opportunity? Where's my opportunity for a break and some space and a rest in this time? So I'm an Enneagram 6. And to some of you, I just said a whole lot, and some of you have no idea what I'm talking about. So when I go to stress, like when I find myself in a stressful season, I tend to overwork, over-prepare. I stay busy. I am overreacting. I want to be prepared for any situation that might come my way just in case. Now, I wasn't one of those buying all the toilet paper, but I totally empathize with anyone who did. What you might not know about me, or maybe you know this about me, I love to do home projects. I love to put in my headphones, find a great podcast, and just get to work. When the shelter-in-place order was set in place, and I found myself talking about social distancing and practicing it in my everyday conversations, I got to work on so many house projects. And one afternoon, I found myself in between projects. I think I just finished repainting our kitchen cabinets. So I'm one of those people that paint everything in my house that's oak white. So I know some of you just cringed majorly when I said that. You can tell me your feelings about that later. But I just finished this massive kitchen cabinet project. And I was ready for more. So I found my husband, Scott, and I was like, okay, I just finished this project. What's next? What do you think I should work on? I could do this, I could do that. And he looked at me and he said, Hannah, I think you need to take the afternoon off. And that's not the answer I wanted, so I stormed out of the basement. But a few moments later, I realized my stress reaction. I realized that for me, it wasn't about just being productive and using my time wisely. For me, it was about staying so busy and so consumed with what I was doing and what I was listening to that I wasn't giving myself any space or any energy or any time to process the situation at hand. I found this really great quote from Eugene Peterson that I think sums up this idea of slowing down and taking a Sabbath really well. And it says, we stop, whether by choice or through circumstance, so that we can be alert, attentive, and receptive to what God is doing in and for us, in and for others on the way. We wait for our souls to catch up with our bodies. The second theme that really stood out to me in the videos was this theme of creativity. I think with more space and slowing down and freer schedules, we've all had time to maybe get a little more creative. One of my favorite stories that I've heard in this time is from Tiffany Clays, and she was telling me that for a while their family was putting all of their names into a bowl, and each day they would draw out a name, and whoever's name was picked, they got to choose what they ate for dinner, how they dressed up at dinner, the family movie that they picked, and she said for them it gave them something to come together around and something to look forward to. It also gave them something to talk about when they were reaching out to friends and family. It just gave them like a conversation point. I love that story. I thought it was so creative and just a great way to spend days. Another thing, I was on a walk in my neighborhood a couple weeks ago, and I was walking past a neighbor's house, and in their driveway was this massive snakes and ladders board that someone, I don't know how long it took them, someone had drawn out in sidewalk chalk. And I don't know why, I thought it was the coolest thing. I've loved hearing your stories about how you're keeping kiddos busy and creative in this time. A few weeks ago, Lexi worked on a project where she asked a lot of moms how they were keeping kiddos busy. And I loved hearing stories of window painting and sidewalk painting and going for hikes and adventures outside and sewing masks for people in need. So it's creativity. The third theme that stood out to me is cherishing the moment. I have loved hearing all of your stories, and I've seen your Instagram and Facebook posts. So many of you, including myself, are enjoying time cherishing the moment with family. I've heard stories of you all enjoying more time around the dinner table. I've heard stories of slower mornings, cooking breakfast together, evenings spent at home playing board games and doing puzzles, family bike rides, and hikes. I think we're all enjoying just a little more time with our loved ones. For me, this theme of cherish the moment reminded me of my mom. So when I was growing up, I grew up in the 90s, so no global pandemic there, but as I was growing up, my mom had this saying, and it was, life is an adventure. And she just said this to me like 2 weeks ago, and I couldn't help but laugh. She would say, life is an adventure. And my sister and I hated it when my mom would say this, because it usually meant that something was about to go wrong or something wasn't going according to plan. Like even as a kid, I wanted to know the schedule and when we were doing this and what we were doing and why. So one of these adventures, we found ourselves on a road trip from Glendive to Great Falls. So I was born and raised in Glendive, way out in eastern Montana, and my grandparents lived in Great Falls. So we made this road trip several times a year. And on one of these road trips, we broke down in Lewistown, Montana. It's about 2/3 of the way to Great Falls. And our car broke down in the parking lot of like a Kmart or a Shopko. And as my mom was making phone calls and figuring out towing and mechanical issues or whatever, I still have memories of like running up and down the aisles of this store playing hide and seek in the clothing racks with my sister. I think I was like middle elementary age. I still remember walking across the street and getting pizza at a local restaurant. I still remember my grandpa showing up. It seemed like hours later. He showed up to give us a ride in his old pickup truck. And it was one of those pickup trucks that didn't have a real back seat. It had like those little jump seats, like no seatbelt, where the two of you were like sitting staring at each other. And I don't know what my sister and I thought was so funny, but we thought something was so funny. And then it seemed like it took us hours to get to my grandparents' house because my grandpa drives like 40 miles an hour on the interstate. Life is an adventure. I can still hear my mom saying it to this day. And I think it's in the context of like now that I'm an adult and we're in this weird season of life and even preparing for this message, I feel like I'm starting to understand what that lesson that she was trying to teach us. Like life throws at us some really crappy, tough, hard situations. And I think we're finding ourselves in the midst of one of those. And I've been so encouraged by so many of you that we're still taking the opportunity to cherish those small moments with loved ones. The last theme that I wanted to touch on was this theme of self-care. I was really encouraged watching the videos how so many women prioritized and talked about self-care for themselves. For me, self-care is one of those things that looks so different depending on the day or the season. And I don't know about you, but so often for me, self-care too is one of those things that gets pushed to the bottom of my to-do list, if it even makes the list at all. But I don't think that that's how God intended it to be. Like, I don't think that we can be who we were fully created to be as a mom or a leader or a professional or a spouse. I don't think we can be who we were fully intended to be when we're not prioritizing some care and love for ourselves. So I was thinking about self-care, and one of my favorite verses came to mind, and it's in the book of Matthew. I want to read it to you today. And two, I don't know about you, but I have, in times of stress and seasons of stress, I have certain verses that I go to and I read over and over. But in this season, I've been going to the Message translation and finding some of my favorite verses. And it's like kind of rediscovering them through a new lens. It's been really encouraging. Okay, so this is from Matthew 11. Are you tired, worn out, burned out on religion? Come to me. Get away with me and you'll recover your life. I'll show you how to take a real rest. Walk with me and work with me. Watch how I do it. Learn the unforced rhythms of grace. I won't lay anything heavy or ill-fitting on you. Keep company with me and you'll learn to live freely and lightly. I understand that conversations on self-care can create frustration or guilt for those of you that are just in a busier season of life, and I get it. I think we've all been there. But I think it's worth mentioning that we love and serve a God who always meets us where we're at. You know, in today's world, it's a little nuts out there. We find ourselves living in chaotic and troubling times, but I wanted to provide just some encouragement this morning. Even though we're physically distanced and we can't come together as often as I know so many of us want to do, we're not in this alone. And I hope that this morning you found some strength and encouragement in what those awesome moms had to say on the video. And I hope it brought you joy just to see some familiar faces, even if it was on the screen. A few weeks ago, I asked some good friends, what verses are you finding comfort in? And Annie Tomerup sent through this verse that I think I've gone to every day in the past few weeks. And I just wanted to end on this note with encouragement. And this is out of Isaiah. So I'll pray and then the band will come up here. This is Isaiah 41:10. I've picked you. I haven't dropped you. Don't panic, I'm with you. There's no need to fear, for I'm your God. I'll give you strength, I'll help you. I'll hold you steady, keep a firm grip on you. God, thanks so much for all those moms out there. Thank you for their leadership and love in our families and communities. I just want to pray for those for whom this is a day of grief and sadness. I know so many friends for whom this is a hard day, and we pray that you provide them with comfort and strength. God, thanks so much that you've picked us, and thank you for walking through real tough times with us. We ask these things in your name. We love you. Amen. If you would like to learn more about Narrate Church, find us at narratechurch.org or look us up on Facebook and Instagram.